Now, in this video, we will start our third and last part of Chapter 7. It will be about the depreciation functions. We will have 5 depreciation functions. The first one, we will have the SLN, which is stand for straight line method. And this one is YD, which is stand for sum of the year digit. Also, we will cover the DB, the depreciation, the declining balance, and DDB, which is a stand for double declining balance. And also, we will cover the variable declining balance. So let's get started. Applying the depreciation function, it's very easy, especially because you are an accountant and you know what is cost mean, what is salvage mean, and what is the life period means. It's not something new for you. So for example, if we buy a car that is worth 8,000 now, and at the end of its life period, we estimate that it will be worth only 800. However, its estimation life is 4 years. So if we want to calculate the depreciation using the straight line method, we usually add or subtract the salvage from the cost and then divide it by 4, which is the years, and now we will have our divide the cost for the whole per years in a constant way. So we will get this 1,800. However, there is another formula that we can calculate the straight line method. 1 divided by life, multiply it by cost minus salvage. And the cost minus salvage must be between parentheses. So the Excel do the subtractions before it do the multiply. Now, this is not the easy part. There is an easier way. The Excel already built a depreciation function that is called SLN, that is stand for straight line method. And you simply just enter what are the argument, and the Excel will do the work for you. So you will answer the cost, and then you will answer the salvage, and you will answer the life. For the purpose to not make the video too long, I already added the answers here. And also I already named the cells as they mean. So now let's move to the next function, which is the sum of year digit. The sum of year digits, it's simply the sum of year digits. We will simply have apply it, and the Excel already have a function that already built in. So we will insert the cost, salvage, and life, and then period. When we say period, we mean which period we are. Are we on the first period, or the second, or on the third, or on the fourth period? I just want to mention that when we name a cell, that make it an absolute reference. How? It's like, for example, if we give the reference an A2 here, but with an absolute, with a dollar sign before the A and dollar sign before the 2. Why do we need here an absolute value? When we drag it down, we doesn't want it to change. We the cost is still in A2, the salvage is still in A2, and the life is still in C2. However, the period will change. That's why we name the range period. Now, if we want to calculate the SYD, or the sum of year digit, using formula, we can calculate it by 4 divided by 10. What is 4? It's because we are in the 4th year. What is 10? It's the calculated of 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. And we multiply the number by the cost minus the salvage. Or sometimes some people will call it residual value instead of salvage. And here, because it's the 3rd year, and you can see here it's not very useful. We need to insert the number here each time we use the formula, and that it's not a very useful way to do it. However, you have the option of doing each. Why we cover both? Because when you go and in the future face some clients, you might see some clients using this formula, and that's why we need you to be flexible and understand whatever your client will be. Now we will move to the next function, the declining balance. The declining balance, we will cover it only by function. It's very easy. We need to first add the cost, which is A2. And now notice, because we did not give it a name, because already the name are reversed here for the cost and life and salvage there, we add the absolute reference. We add the dollar sign, so the cell will remain constant when we drag the function. Here we have the the salvage value, and the 3rd argument we will add the life, and the 4th argument, and you can notice here that the 4th argument are not constant, doesn't has an absolute reference. Why? Because in the 1st row we need him to use the 1st period. In the 2nd row we need him to calculate for the 2nd period, and the 3rd row we need it to calculate the 3rd period, and for the 4th row we needed to calculate the 4th period, and so on. Now this is also an easy task. Now let's see the double declining balance. The double declining balance, if we are using the function, it will be very easy. We just add the equal sign, then write in DDB, which is referred to double declining balance, and then we'll open the parentheses and then add the cost, and you can see here that the cost is constant, and we have added a dollar sign to have an absolute reference. Then the salvage is the B2, and now the life is C2, and then the period is here in A7, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th period, and we did not have an absolute reference because we wanted to change when we drag it. Now the last one is the factor. If you open the FX and you see what does it say about factor? The factor of double declining balance is 2. So if we write it 2, it will use 2. But however, if we ignore it, since it's not in the bold, the Excel will add 2 as a default. So whether we add it here or we omit it, we will have the same result. We will have the same result because it's already by default 2 and our factor is 2. You can notice here that when we drag it down, now the A7 become an A8, which is referred to the number of period, and then A9 and here A10. How we calculate the remaining book value? The book value is the cost minus the accumulated depreciation. The cost here, it's easy, but what about the accumulated depreciation? The accumulated depreciation, if you remember how we calculate the running balance, it's the same. We start by here because it's the first depreciation, and then we either stop here if it's the first year, and then we'll stop here if it's the second, here if the third, and here if it's the fourth year. However, we always start from the first depreciation. That's why here we had an absolute reference, but here we did not. Now the remaining book value will be calculated automatically. Now you can see here at the end of the fourth year, we get to the salvage value. We can use formula for that. The formula, it's too complicated. The function, it's just a direct way. How it's communicated, the double declining balance calculated with the formula, it's by using the minimum function, and by the minimum we can choose between or the least between these two numbers, and see here the commas will divide the two numbers. What are these number? Number one is the A2, which is the cost, minus the sum of 16 B16, which is this one referred to as the remaining book value. Multiply it by the D2 divided by C2, which is the factor by life. And we will compare it to the next number. What is the next number? The next number is about the cost minus the salvage minus the accumulated depreciation. So the least between these two. It will be added here. The remaining book value, it has been calculated as the same as here. Now we will go to the double declining balance if we have ignored the salvage. What do we mean by ignoring the salvage? If you see here that the cost is the cost, the same cost we use it, the life is the same life we use it, period is the same period we have used it, and also the factor the same. However, the salvage, we have added 0 instead of 2000. What will happen? That will leave us with 1000, or will go beyond the 2000. So the remaining book value, or the book value at the end of the fourth year, will be less than the salvage value. Now let's move on to the double declining but with a factor of 1.5. As I said before, the DDB function add 2 as the default for the factor. However, I can choose another factor, and because I have only one factor and I doesn't wanted to change when I drag down the formula, I will give it an absolute value. If you noticed here that the absolute value or the book value at the end of the fourth year, if we use a 1.5 factor, it will be the same whether we have ignored this salvage or we haven't. Now, let's move on to the variable declining balance. What is the variable declining balance? It's actually a double declining balance, but it will switch to the straight line method. The variable declining balance, it will switch to the straight line method when the book value will be less on the straight line method. However, for us, we need to know how or when will switch and when it will not switch. First, the no switch is option, and if you notice here, the argument is called no switch. What does it mean, no switch? The Excel did not say switch and you can say false and true. No, it's like two no's. No switch and false. It means please switch to the straight line method. That's why we have chosen false here, and you can see here that from the beginning he was declining, and then in the last fourth period he converted to a straight line method, and you can see here that the depreciation cost is the same for the last fourth year. Why? The Excel switched to the straight line method. However, if we turned off we want to turn it off, so when it say no switch, and we can add true, so it will not switch. So here we have say the no switch. The cost is the cost here, which is 2,400. The salvage is 100. The C2 is the life, which is 10 years. The starting point and the ending point. Starting point we calculated by 8-1, which year we are in, and then -1. So it will give us when it's a start, and 8-2 it's the actual year we are calculating the depreciation for. Then after we enter the end period, we will add the factor. The factor, as I told you, it's false. Oh, sorry, the factor is by default is 2. By default, the factor is by default is 2. And then the no switch, see here, the factor by default is 2. And no switch, in no switch, it's, as I told you, if I say yes to no switch, means still remain to no switch, so do not switch to the straight line method. However, if say no, so I tell the Excel do not no switch, that means the Excel need to switch to the straight line method. The default by the no switch is the default by no switch is to switch to straight line method. So the default is false. Now we have finished our depreciation function. If you have any question, please do not hesitate to send me an email or put it in a discussion board or send teacher arrange the question. Good luck and have fun with these 3 videos. Bye bye.